Hey everybody, it's Harrison. Welcome back to Maine Connects, your source for all things small business and real estate in Maine. Today I had the amazing opportunity to interview a local business owner that offers super unique experiences throughout coastal Maine. These experiences are so unique, they were just recently ranked one of the top 10 tours and experiences in the country. Today I'm joined by Pam Lasky from Maine Day Ventures, who's been operating food tours and other experiences along coastal Maine since 2009. It's a great interview, I hope you enjoy it. I'm joined today by Pam Lasky from Maine Day Ventures. Welcome, Pam.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So glad to have you. So for those people that may not know who you are, can you give a little introduction about who you are and your path into Maine?
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show. Thanks for asking. So I was actually born and raised up in Bangor area and near Old Town Canoe.
Oh, nice.
Most people love.
Yep.
And I went to college at Orono, a couple degrees, went to Boston, had a great career in academic publishing, but I was looking for a way to get back. And so I'm what you call a boomeranger. I came back in 2009. Yep. My only regret was I didn't come back sooner.
Perfect. But there's something about Maine that always calls back to us, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you know, when you live in a big city and you come back to a state like Maine, I mean, people are just so friendly. They're so engaging. They're so willing to be helpful. And they're a bunch of characters. They're truly a bunch of characters. I love it. I love it here.
No, I love it. And in my past life, I traveled the country for the company that I was with. And everywhere I went, I ran into somebody who had a tie or a connection to Maine. So it never really left.
That's so true. And you know, only in Maine can you do that 7 degree of connection thing, which I find happens no matter whom I meet. But in Boston, I was also traveling a lot, and I would often wear like something that had Maine on it. And almost always people would stop me like, oh, I've been to Bahaba. You know, like they just want to talk to you about Maine. I can't wait to go back to Maine. Like, you know, they got a good idea.
Love it. Yeah. Something about Maine always calls to you. So, so Maine Day Ventures. Let's talk a little bit about. So, what is Maine Day Ventures? What do you guys do?
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Absolutely.
So we started as Maine Foodie Tours in 2009, and the whole reason I started the business was really it was pretty simple. A true story. I came back here. I'd always worked for really large companies. But when you come to Maine, it's a lot of mom and pops. There's not a lot of big employers. So a lot of people who live here grow up with the spirit of, I'm going to have my own business one day. And as soon as I got back here, I started meeting all of these 20 and 30-year-olds, going to the bank, borrowing several hundreds of thousands of dollars because they like to make gelato. And they were going to start a gelato making company. And they just put huge amounts of money down and bet on themselves and knew that it would be hard work, but didn't care how much work it took. And I just really wanted to tell their stories because it's a really impressive place to live and work, and the people here are just, I think, truly extraordinary. So we started it. Portland, Maine, where I live, had just been named the foodiest small town in America by Bon Appetit that October of 2008. And people were coming to town to go to these James Beard Award-winning restaurants and looking for other culinary themed things to do. So we started Maine Foodie Tours. We were the 5th in the country. So there were only food tours in Chicago, Boston, Seattle, and New York. Took those tours and I thought, I can do this. So I started a wing, a prayer, a good idea, and ate a lot of noodles for 3 to 4 years while things were very, very slow. And over time we've grown, and we operate our culinary tours in Portland. Kennebunkport was our second location, Bar Harbor, Boothbay Harbor, and Rockland. But when COVID hit, people were very afraid to go into the restaurants. We couldn't get into the restaurants. And we had started doing some history tours, some other types of walking tours, and those became really popular because, you know, everybody was just so nervous about going into places. So we decided we needed to rebrand and go with a larger umbrella name because it was hard to find a history tour under a company called Maine Foodie Tours.
Sure, exactly.
So that's the rebranding. And since then, we have broadened our game some more. Here in Kennebunkport, we also do gardening tours. history tours, food tours, and we recently added a ghost tour at night, which is kind of exciting.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so it's fun, and it's a good name that helps us sort of expand what we're doing as well.
Sure, absolutely. So started off really wanting to feature local businesses, and it became the tour. So where did the idea to make this a tour versus just some local features come from?
Sure. So when I first moved back to Portland, I had a neighbor who said, I'm going to take you out to my favorite places. And we went for a walk, and he brought me to a cheese shop. You got to buy this Maine cheese. This is what you're going to love. Brought me down to Harbor Fish Market. This is where you go to get all your fresh fish. Brought me over to Standard Baking Company. This is where you want to buy all your bread. Brought me to his favorite chocolatier. He's like, do you have any questions? I'm like, no, I think I'm good. And he looked at me and he said, you should do this. You should do this. And I thought, yeah. You know what? I had such a good time with him. Why don't I put it together?
Okay.
So it became a tour, but really it's truly doing everything that I love. My dad, who bought his first business at age 45, said, listen, kid, do what you love. And what do you love to do, by the way? And I said, well, I love to eat. I love to drink. I love to walk. And I love to entertain and educate people. And so he said, well, give it a try. So, and of course, they were scared to death because it was totally risky.
Sure.
And we were fifth in the country. But now there are 1,000 food tours just in America.
Wow.
Just in America. A recent research project was completed. 30% of them did not recover from COVID. And I can see why.
Sure.
It was a tough couple of years, but it's now kind of a thing that you do when you go to a town. We went from you do what, huh, to, oh, we take food tours everywhere we go. So, they join ours and they tell us what they liked compared to the one they took last week in New York or whatever. So we're happy we got in when the getting was good. And we've been able to rise along with that tide. So it's fun. So just in the last month, USA Today, they do these top 10 best.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically, we were nominated by their editorial team to be one of the top 20 food tours in America. And it was based largely on reviews.
Awesome.
Because they don't know us. They're in New York, right?
So this is what your customers are saying about you.
Well, and then it became a Reader's Choice award. So they ran this contest for 2 weeks, and America voted, and we were just kind of hoping we could be one of those spots in the top 10. We came in at number 8.
Amazing.
Which is exciting. That's really exciting for us. And then the second lovely award is more of a recognition, not so much an award, but this company called Arrival, which is big in travel and tourism. They host a couple of conferences a year. They're research focused. They're always trying to help people like me know what's going on in the big picture. So a couple of conferences a year and a lot of research. And they are the ones that found all of the food tours to total 1,000 to find out which ones didn't come back from COVID. And to do their research was based on online reviews and presence, so your size. And we came in 11 out of the top 20. And there are actually, which is kind of interesting about our industry, is there are actually only 10 food tour operators who have more than one location.
Oh, wow.
So we came in number 5 for that, only because we've got 6 locations here in Maine. We're strictly in Maine, and we're going to stay in Maine. We're not going anywhere. But that was super exciting. We didn't even know there was no fanfare about it. It was just published, and we were sent the article, and we were really excited about that.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super exciting.
That's very cool.
I mean, we're doing a great job, but it's a big world, and there's 1,000 of us out there doing it. So how do you know how you compare other than talking with your guests all the time?
Yep.
So it was very nice.
That's amazing. So similar to what you were doing featuring local businesses. That's what we love to do, Maine Connects, Explore Maine Life. We're big fans of local business. But I have to ask, when you started the tours, what was the general reception from the places you were going to? Did they understand what you were doing? Were they resistant to what you were doing? What was that general reception from the restaurants you were taking on the tour?
Sure. Well, initially it was total confusion. Okay. Like, you're doing what? But you know, I think the good thing is that we recognize that these restaurants are hardworking people and they are there to make a living and provide a wonderful product. So we learned over time, we didn't always do this, but we learned over time, you know, we call in advance, sometimes the night before, we show up on time, we leave on time, we pay full retail, we tip at 20%, we get in, we get out, and we promote the heck out of them while we're there. So what they're finding, in addition to our patronage, is that a lot of our partners, a lot of our guests are going back there on their own time to spend their own dime. And our statistics show about 35% of any customer is going to come back to your restaurant after they've had a little taste on a tour. So it's free marketing for them.
That's great.
It is, that's evolved over time. It hasn't always been the formula, but now that really works, and it has to be a win-win, because we really exist to promote all of them, and that's what brings me joy, to help other businesses grow.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So you mentioned the rebranding. So just to go back to that for a minute. So you get into COVID and nobody really knows what's going on yet and what to make of it.
Right.
At what point did you realize this was going to be a problem for your business, and what made you decide to pivot? You know, what was the process to get to, I have to do something different?
Sure. Well, I think it was the lockdown, right? A lot of the restaurants that we visit had to scale way back on allowing people in or not. Mask wearing 100% of the time is tough when you're also trying to eat. Yep. We kept doing a lot of the food tours, but we pivoted a lot of them to be picnic oriented. Okay. So folks stay outside. I'm going to talk to you about this restaurant. I'm going to run in and get our to-goes, and we're going to go to a park and enjoy these foods.
Very smart.
But it was a struggle.
Yeah.
It was a struggle. Sales were way down for 2 years. I mean, it was tough. And I think that's really what was a lot of the impetus to try to do some other things additionally, because we really have done a lot of the research on the history of the place, because the history and the food, it's all connected. So why not offer some historical walking tours too? So a lot of it's just grown organically from our research, trying to offer great stories and talk about the people and the places, and really showcase a lot of these communities. Yeah.
It's great. It's nice to see a business that was clearly impacted by COVID be able to pivot, come out of it, because as you mentioned, many did not.
Right.
And it takes some bravery and it takes some serious research to be able to make that pivot and get through it.
Right. And I can tell you on the plus side is Maine had some of its best growth in tourism in the last 2 years post-COVID, because we did such an exceptional job of how we handled the cases and kept cases low. And Maine became the great escape for people all over the country to come knowing they could be in our great outdoors. They didn't have to be in really crowded environments. And so we've had some of our best couple of years since COVID because of the way I think our state handled it.
Yeah, agreed. And we saw it on the real estate side. We saw a lot of people coming from out of state that either didn't want to live in a high-rise condo anymore with what's going on. They've heard about our quality of life. They've seen the food scene.
Oh, absolutely.
And the idea of having space in a place that didn't have traffic that took you an hour to get somewhere was very attractive.
Huge, 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 huge. When I moved back here from Boston, people would complain about the traffic. I would just laugh like, this is nothing. Yeah. It's still moving.
Right.
I'm moving. I'm not sitting for an hour. You're good.
Yeah. We sit through one cycle of a light and it's traffic, but elsewhere that's nothing.
I know, right? I know.
So
it's funny, when I came back, my mom said to me, now listen, Dia, you're back in Maine now. You've got to start being more polite in your car. And I said, well, what does that mean? She said, well, for one, you've got to start using your blinker again. which you don't use in Boston. It's a sign of weakness.
Exactly.
You don't just let somebody know where you're going.
You don't.
You know,
It's the element of surprise.
Right. Keep them guessing. Don't let them know. But it's so good to be back. Yeah.
Man.
And I'm polite again.
Yes. Maine is a way of bringing that back out of you.
It totally does. It totally does.
All right. So aside from COVID, what are some of the other challenges you face being a small business operator here in Maine?
Sure. Well, okay. I can tell you that as your business grows, your challenges grow each year, right? We didn't always work with resellers, but now we have big companies like Viator and Expedia and Get Your Guide. They're all anxious to sell our products. Gotcha. But their rules of engagement keep changing. They work really hard to offer the customer up to 24-hour cancellation, buy now, pay later, a lot of things that we can't do.
Sure.
So that's just this year's challenge. But I would say every year the challenges grow as the business has grown. But overall, all the time, it's usually the communication that can become sometimes just a lot, right? Because when you think about being in the communication business, which I am, we have the communication with the guest. We want them to feel like they're taken care of all the way up into their experience with us, and then post-experience. We have the communication with all of our partners, all of our restaurants. We call them every day. Sometimes they have a new staff person that's never heard of us and doesn't know the rules or the rules of our engagement together. So there's that constant evolution and change that takes place with them. And then our guide team, trying to always hang on to beautiful talent. We have about 28 guides throughout the state, and they're phenomenal. But I have to recognize I'm seasonal in some towns. We're year-round in Portland, and it's part-time. And so, you've got how do you hang on to them and take good care of them, knowing you're not going to give them as much work as they'd love. And so I guess it's just, and then you've got this crazy season that is kind of slow in the early part of the year, ramps up by May, goes really strong. Just as everybody's getting really tired, we hit the fall, and the fall we're just absolutely slammed. Maine does a great job of marketing itself to people that want to see the leaves die.
Yes.
Have you noticed that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Huge in the fall.
Absolutely.
Slightly older, more seasoned traveler
Yes.
Comes in, and then we're really strong right through mid-November. The shoulder seasons are growing too. But it becomes a challenge of, also earning enough money to keep the full-time staff paid year-round when we've got a couple of lean months. I could go on with more challenges, but I don't know how much time we have.
No, it's good. It's good. With any small business, there's challenges. There's growing pains. There's also just operational challenges.
Oh yeah.
We're in Maine. It's a smaller state. You don't have as many options in terms of people and staff and structure. So there's every business has its own unique set of challenges. Yours, we were mentioning before we were talking about rain. Rain is something that affects your business. And when we have a rainy start to the summer, that impacts your summer.
100%. And talking with the Maine Tourism Association and all of my fellow operators and attractions and hotels, this year, 2023, we're all down at least 10% because from June 2nd to July 4th, there were 28 days of rain. Yeah. That should be a home run season for all of us, 7 days a week, making it happen. And a lot of us are very weather dependent, so we're hurting. And also we need the meteorologists on a rainy day to not talk about how it's going to rain again the next day. Maybe just go partly sunny instead of partly cloudy all the time. Give us a break. We really wish they would be a little more optimistic. But huge factor.
Yeah, big time. All right.
Yeah.
So before we let you go, if people want to learn more about Maine Day Ventures, the various tours you do, the various areas you're in, what's the best way for them to find out more information?
Oh, great. Well, they can visit us online, mainedayventures.com. Okay. So you could reach us, 207-233-7485. We're answering phones 7 days a week, 9 to 5. And we're on social media too. So Facebook, Instagram, they can find us on those. working on the LinkedIn profile a little bit. You know, it's a work in progress. But yeah.
Awesome. So really appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Hope to see you again in the future.
I hope I can send some business your way because you guys are rocking it.
Same.
Seriously.
Check out Maine Day Ventures.